Hello and welcome to episode 3 of the Techno Optimist. It is Saturday, March 9th, 2013. My name's Matt Lee. Joining us, as always, the Techno Optimist himself, Kevin Russell. What's up, Kevin?
Hey, I'm really excited to be here.
This is great. 3 episodes in. Site's looking good. Simulate.com is where you can find the show under podcast, under Techno Optimist. And once we get this episode up, I believe we'll be ready to submit to iTunes. Then you guys can subscribe that way, leave us ratings and reviews in iTunes and all the good podcast interaction stuff that goes along with it. So 3 episodes in, our first interview today is with a molecular biophysicist.
Yes, Maria Konovalenko. She's the vice president of the Life Extension Foundation, and she's actually stayed up to 1 right now, and she's in Moscow.
That's right. We got an 11-hour time zone. So let's welcome to the show Maria Konovalenko. How you doing, Maria?
Hi, doing very good. Thank you.
Good. Thank you again for making time for us to talk about your work here on the Techno Optimist.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
So we'll give a quick intro. If you guys aren't familiar with the Life Extension Foundation, this was established when I was born in 1980. It's a nonprofit organization with long-range goals to radically extend the healthy human lifespan by discovering scientific methods to control aging and eradicate disease. So this is the largest organization of its kind in the world, and they've always been at the forefront of discovering new scientific breakthroughs for use in developing novel disease prevention.
Actually, I think that's I think that you're talking about the Life Extension Foundation, but in fact, I work for the Science for Life Extension Foundation.
For Life.
It's a very common mix-up, and we're a completely different organization. We're a very small nonprofit, and we're located in Moscow, in Russia. And actually, the foundation originated in Russia. And it
this is perfect. I'm sure the objectives are the same, so this is perfect for you to have a platform.
Yeah, absolutely, the objectives are the same. We're all about extending human lifespan using scientific methods, and we're a charitable organization that we support good research, good researchers, projects aimed at studying the fundamental mechanisms of aging and creating interventions that would significantly extend our lifespan.
So the Science for Life Extension Foundation was established in August of 2008.
So
we'll just clarify that we're on the right page here thanks to Google Translate from Russian to English. Hopefully everything translates okay.
Well, we have a direct communication with the vice president, so this is an incredible opportunity for all of us. What got you into this? Like, how old were you when you discovered that, people didn't live forever, and this is something that science could actually, pave the road to fixing?
I would say that there were several major points that led me to doing what I'm doing right now. Well, the first one, I don't think I will be a lot of people, when they're kids, when they're 4, maybe 5 years of age, they have those thoughts about eternity, about life and death. I think that's the first time when I got this. It was during the night. I was actually at my dad's mom's house, which is in the middle of nowhere. It's not Siberia, it's the Altai region in Russia, but it's not far, so you can just think of it. It's in the middle of nowhere in Siberia, but in the south. I was about 4 years of age, and I had this terrible night when I couldn't sleep. I just couldn't fall asleep because I was thinking that, oh my God, what's going to happen when I die? What's going to happen when my mom and dad die?
Sure, yeah.
And that's an interesting thing for a child to be first confronted with, because you go from it's not really even a thought in your mind to being confronted with your own immortality. And depending on how you were raised and if you were brought up in religion or something like that, it depends on your reaction to it. So it's interesting that you took that and turned it into this career.
It wasn't actually at that moment. I think that the majority of kids have those thoughts about that age. It's kind of how we develop, how we understand. That's the common pace at which we understand things about life. Then our mind sets those barriers so that we won't think about life and death and eternity and how things, like what's going to happen after we die. Because it's actually very scary. And if we think about death, we would just develop phobias and manias. We would be, on edge all the time.
Sure, it causes a lot of cognitive dissonance to, be faced with one's mortality.
Right. So I think this is a kind of a coping mechanism. And then, of course, that the coping mechanism that our own minds have developed over time. Also, social beliefs, social habits, they help us with that.
Yeah.
People, and help, but I'm using air quotes that you can see right now, actually.
Yeah, help, maintain the status quo. I think that,
right.
The social norms that go along with it. You're supposed to expect this to happen at the end of a certain amount of years, and it's just the part of the cycle of life.
So what, you were about 4 or 5 when you were confronted with this, and how did that translate?
Like all of the other kids, I never ever thought about life and death and aging. Maybe until my grandma died, and that was in 1999 or 1998. So I was 14, so I was a teenager. But those barriers. It was obviously a shock to me, but this didn't tear those barriers down, this tragedy. Sure. Unfortunately. I first got introduced to the science of aging, to the fact that actually something could be done about aging when I was at university. And I studied at the Moscow Institute of Physics and Technology. And in my 5th year, I had gerontology. So my mentor, God, I hate this guy. He was really horrible. And actually, I'm very, very thankful to him because he got me to think about this issue. When I was during my first exam, he said that when I'm going to be 50, I'm going to be really fat. I'm going to have atherosclerosis. And, oh, by the way, my parents both have atherosclerosis right now, and they're soon going to die.
Wow.
I kind of freaked out. However,
as one would,
I got an A in the exam because I knew it was very interesting to me what he was saying, and he was the person who introduced me to Mikhail Batin, who is the head of the Science for Life Extension Foundation. And this was the moment that changed my life because he got me interested in transhumanism. He offered me a job. He offered to work for the foundation. And I was like, why not? This is amazing.
Sure.
And the first day at work, Mike Darwin, I don't know if you guys heard about Mike Darwin, but he is one of the best specialists in cryonics and cryopreservation. He was at the time in Moscow, and Mikhail called me in to translate their conversation with Mike. And was like, oh my God, why don't people talk about cryonics? Why don't we know about this option? This is just so positive. It could give people so much hope, that there's like a chance that we will not
decommission death
for eternity.
Yeah.
So have a chance for a future in the future when we have those technologies, hopefully.
So when you say the science of aging, you're looking at the cellular level, at what degrades there to cause an overall aging effect on the body, or how are you approaching that?
Well, now, when I was at university, I basically studied, the different theories. A lot had to do with the oxidative stress theory, so it was molecular and cellular level. However, when I started working at the foundation, I studied a lot more about aging, and I've been to numerous conferences, and of course now I understand that aging is a completely it's an incredibly complicated phenomenon, and it happens on all levels of organization of matter, starting with molecular and for example, damage that's accumulating. It's on the cellular tissue, organism, and even on the psychological level. We age on all those levels.
Right.
So,
did it become very clear to you? And this is something, because I'm a complete layman in this, and I've just been, all the documentaries and random articles that I read and such. Did it become very clear to you that there was abnormalities in the genetics, as in it's very evolved? As in, there's many billions of times of replication, and that's
like maybe there's a good reason we're not living to be 500 years old. Or?
Well, is it when now that we have the power to read the genome and edit the genome, is it now we're moving into an age where we're engineered? And I trust my engineering that's around me more than I trust my biology. Biology seems very prone to
it's very
disorder.
Fragile.
Yeah,
biology is fragile.
It's very evolved. It's not designed, so to speak, in the way that we see engineering that we can now do, like through the Craig Vanters and such. Does that kind of play into how you see this helping us in the future, now that we understand from the base, codons and whatnot, that we can manipulate those?
By all means. So I wouldn't call biology fragile. As a matter of fact, you're right that we get DNA damage all the time. The cells replicate numerous times, and there's the different kinds of stresses are affecting our cells constantly. For example, ionizing radiation, temperature, oxidative stress, a lot of different stresses. However, our cells and our tissues, they have mechanisms, very, very efficient mechanisms that do the repair works. For example, we have 3 types of autophagy, we have proteolysis, we have DNA repair, we have heat shock proteins and whatnot.
So it's very redundant.
The thing is that the thing is where the fragile, why we can say we're fragile in a way, it comes when over time the efficiency of those repair mechanisms it declines, because they also accumulate damage. And if we figure out an engineering solution how we can maintain the efficacy of those systems, this is one way to go. And I really believe a great deal in genetic engineering, in what Craig Venter is doing. For example, and he's not the only guy. Actually, there's this great team led by Maria Blasco in Madrid. They have created a longevity virus. They inserted telomerase gene into a viral vector. It's a construction that
is this the mice?
That inserts genetic material into the existing cells in the body. So they basically infected mice with a life extension vector.
Wow.
A life extension gene. And her mice, Maria Blasco's mice, they lived 20% longer. They had reduced rate of osteoporosis. They had better looking skin. They had greater neuromuscular function. They were, healthier longer living mice.
So by tweaking this gene, you were basically slowing down the natural processes that were, in effect, degrading these cells, the body and whatnot. She was able to slow that process down.
Yeah, I wouldn't call them natural, though. But yes, those because natural is it's a tricky word.
Well, right. Air quotes. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're right. Yeah, of course. So the telomerase gene, it extends the length of telomeres, which are the end parts of our chromosomes, our DNA molecules.
Sure, and that's been caused, or they say that's the biggest causing of age-related illnesses.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it the greatest cause, because actually we don't know which mechanism is the leading one in aging. Sure. I can name, I don't know, 24.
It's all of the mechanisms.
Other things, but it's one of those.
But what's beautiful, I mean, I find this really fascinating. So they were able to take a virus and make it inert, as in it doesn't have the ability to harm the biological.
They turned it into a delivery system.
Yeah, they turned what has been around for millions and millions of years, this virus, able to penetrate, into the nucleus and deliver its DNA. That's what's happening here. We've been able to engineer a virus and bootstrap our own.
That's correct. Yes, that's exactly what's happening.
Wow. That's just incredible.
Yeah, that's the approach of longevity gene therapy. We can try to insert different genes that are associated with longevity. As a matter of fact, there are more than 100 genes known whose activity declines over aging. So if we add them, if we add extra copies, then it's a good chance that, first the model animals and then hopefully people would live longer.
Now, what needs to happen to actually make that a streamlined process? Like, how far out is that? And it's hard.
Well, we understand the mechanism, right? If it works DNA is DNA for the most part. If it works in these mice, generally, assuming there's no other outliers that we're not catching, it should work in humans.
Yeah, maybe the effect wouldn't be too significant because because of the difference in complexity of organism, but that's the general idea. And if we combine various interventions that lead to life extension, then the greater chance we get to improve a person's longevity and health.
Now, knowing this, where do you find the global conversation about longevity? Do you even see this on the ballot, the topic?
Well, that was going to be my question, is that how does the public at large feel? I mean, individually, yeah, we want to live as long as possible, but as a whole, is it good if everyone lives forever? It seems like we're not very good at managing the resources we have, and if there was less of us dying, more of us being born, it seems like our resources would get sucked down a lot quicker.
Well, I think that technology is a resource liberator. And
and hopefully it would catch up to that point, but it's not
yet. When these technologies come online, I don't think we'll have the same...
you think by that time we'll have solved the resource problem?
Yeah, absolutely.
The fossil fuel issue,
absolutely.
if you will?
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. I don't think that...
Fair enough.
If we can hack into the genetic code and become the author or editor or the actual architect of the genome, at that point in our future, I don't feel that we'll be under...
It shouldn't be an
resource-based
issue, hopefully.
Scarcity. I don't think that they'll...
Yeah, like we can build really, really tall farms. We can build tall houses. We can cope with the seeming lack of resources. And actually, this is this overpopulation counter argument. I get it a lot. Really, that's that's what people say. The first time they hear about life extension, but actually, it's more about how many children we have in a family than how long we live. And I've seen scientific simulations, mathematical models that considered various scenarios. Like everything stays the same. Life is not extended. We managed to postpone aging. We managed to stop aging, and we managed to rejuvenate people, and what's going to happen with the population. Well, I wouldn't say that there's going to be a huge boost of the population. No, society is a self-regulating, mechanism or organism, as you may say.
Doesn't the data show that if you educate women, the population, it becomes much more leveled? As in, when you have that education for women, the children per household drops dramatically. That's
and
what
actually, even in Africa, we see the situation. The birth rates are dropping down significantly. It's about the quality of healthcare, and you're right, education also is an important factor.
Well,
but regardless of this, I just want to stress this point. I believe that the more people we have, the better to the society it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
People are good. People bring good. People bring creativity.
Have you read Peter Diamandis?
I'm sorry, what?
Peter Diamandis wrote that book, Abundance, and he talks about the rising billion, that these billion minds are going to come online. And just look at what just at first in the 90s, the first couple million online that were able to connect and how much they were able to change the world around them. And now we have, 3 billion minds that are connected?
Right.
Now there's a whole nother billion in the next couple years that are coming online. And what are they going to bring to the table? And what are they going to bring to the conversation now that they have a medium and platforms in which they can hear a conversation about stopping aging? I mean, I love that you guys talk about decommissioning death, because death is a sentence due to genetic anomalies inside of the code, right? And if we can, error correct, if we could get in there and, change all the switches in which we can extend our lives, I don't know why that conversation is not happening.
Yeah, well, that's various reasons. Once I started with those psychological barriers, that's very... Sure. Huge obstacle. Then people have those, standard counter arguments that they don't even think. The counter arguments just kind of pop into their heads.
The default
overpopulation is going to be boring to live, but obviously that's you won't know this until you try. And the more people we have, the more knowledge we have. And I haven't read Abundance yet, but I definitely will. And I totally agree with Peter Diamandis here that the more people we have, the more good things, the more
solutions,
the more possibilities,
solutions, more knowledge, yes, more technologies, more values we will have. I mean, as our civilization. So life extension is definitely a good thing, regardless of those. Superstitions, fears,
urban myths.
Do you feel that the psychological argument won't hold up, or it won't come up as much once the solutions are there? So once we can take, a pill that extends our life indefinitely and gives us the option for when we want to end this life. I find it very odd and ambiguous that I don't have a choice. It's always looming on what's biologically in my genes currently. I would love to have that discernment over that through a pill. And once I have that option, do you think that people will, that psychological issue will not be as prevalent? It won't be their go-to, linguistic backdoor that allows them out of the argument.
The lines will be kilometers long. Yeah. People line up. Everybody's going to want that pill.
Sure.
Because people will see the first ones who wouldn't have cardiovascular disease.
Absolutely.
No wrinkles of gray hair, no cancer, no Alzheimer's, no nothing. People would be more productive, better looking, stronger, smarter, healthier. That's what we want. And
better people.
As soon as people will see, then there's going to be a boost of appreciation and acceptance in the public opinion. However, right now this is definitely not the case. And answering your question about the level of the life extension conversation, well, the current level is non-existent. It's not even low. It's non-existent. Like you have, if you take a look at the New York Times or whatever major newspaper there is, you would see politics, you would see sports, because it's very, very important
Sure.
who scores goal.
Who has the most neurological damage this week?
Right, but unfortunately, life extension is not going to be there. And I've seen all different kinds of responses when I told people, "Oh, you know what? I'm going to live forever," and I think that's the best thing that can happen to a person. Some people completely agreed, understood everything right away, and kneeled down and said, "We're your slaves and just lead us." That was one extreme.
Sure.
The other one, I literally, a woman had red, spots on her face. That's how physically rejecting.
Just a visceral reaction to the
Manifesting
idea.
physical.
She stopped talking, and she had all the red spots.
Yeah.
Well, but she was a religious person, so that was completely what she didn't want to hear.
She instantly connected living forever with vampires, and that's where she went with that.
Do you feel that? I mean, we can get caught up on all that, but I feel we have the opportunity here to actually talk to one of the scientists that are making that pill available soon. And when I say soon, that's my optimism there. But I think you can give us a more realistic and pragmatic timeline on what's coming on. I know Aubrey de Grey has his timeline, but for you, give us an objective, overview on what technologies or what or elaborate on the genome era, the genomic revolution that'll lead to this type of pill that people will line up for.
Well, first of all, this pill, again, I'm using the air quotes.
Air quotes, big air quotes.
This is going to be a combination of personalized interventions, including things that we can do now, changes in lifestyle, various diets, physical exercise, but also very, very complex drug combinations, maybe gene therapy. We don't know now. Speaking of the timeline, it would be unprofessional of me to give you any certain number.
Sure.
You know what? It depends on us. We're the ones who are responsible for our future.
Well, and Maria, we've seen this slowly happen over the years with the online genetic testing. People can go to sites like 23andMe is one.
Right.
mapmygene.com, and we've seen the price of this get dramatically cheaper over the years. And so being able to say for $1,000 or $500, send your DNA to this company and have them do the sequencing and map it and send you back, that starts to take us down the road of this personalized medicine, personalized healthcare, which is one of the branches to the overall.
And with Maria, people like you that are doing the research to actually tell us what genes would be beneficial once we extracted our genome.
Being able to have a map to compare this to.
You doing the actual research can give us that knowledge and understanding of our own personal genomes. So we have the conduit like 23andMe that I could get the code, but what's that mean to me? I don't know how to read DNA.
Right, you need the other side of it.
I need these molecular biophysicists that actually understand the polymers and understand all this.
And actually, genetic testing, that's only the beginning. I can tell you that a significant, probably the most significant role in extending, a person's life is diagnostics of aging. We strongly believe, and by we I mean, the top gerontologists who we are working with. The idea is the following: we need to, aside from the regular clinical testing, the stuff that's been measured right now at the clinic, in order to evaluate the biological processes that are happening in a person's body and draw conclusions about the rate of aging, about development of age-related diseases, and possible weak spots where we could intervene and either prevent those diseases from happening and slow down the aging processes or treat the already manifested diseases. So here are the additional things that need to be measured. Age-specific markers are one thing, but basically we need to have the information about the full genome of a person. We need to have the time dynamics of a person's epigenome, transcriptome, metabolome, and genome, right? So, and proteome. When we measure those actually hundreds of thousands of parameters, over time, we can see what's changing and we can draw conclusions what exactly is happening in the body. So it's not only the gene. Our DNA is a blueprint. It's the code, but there's the software. There's the there's epigenetic, which regulates what gene is.
And that literally that means epigenome is above the genome, right? So it's what we do. What we do in our day-to-day lives that actually dictate the epigenome, correct?
It's environment, it's
environmental pressures, diets, and all that affect the epigenome.
A lot of things can interfere with that regulation which is above the genome, and we need to know what's going on. And this kind of diagnostics, very, very comprehensive diagnostics, will work, and I know this why, because there was a paper in the journal Cell. There's Michael Snyder. He's the head of the genetics department at Stanford, and he's actually performed the proof of principle. They've been measuring, I think, 40,000 parameters at a time, and they were looking at his body. He was the patient.
Sure.
And they have done, I think, 20 measurements over, I think it was 14 months or something. And looking at this comprehensive data, they were able to see the onset of his type 2 diabetes.
Wow.
That was really cool. He had the gene that, said that his probability of getting the disease is a bit higher. But he wasn't planning on going to the doctor because he's not overweight. He's not in, the risk category of people.
Sure.
But he had 2 infections during those times. So he got sick twice during the time of measurement. And the second time, the infection prompted the onset of type 2 diabetes. It's a terrific paper because it actually illustrates the principle how we're going to cope with our biological processes and how we could identify those, the spots where we could just tune our biology to make us healthier and live longer.
So we'll put links for that on the show notes for this. And I just think that that's absolutely incredible that now he is able to take reading his genome and having an understanding of that and having that the diagnosis, he is able to then change his lifestyle, right? Which has been changing.
That's what he did. He corrected it, and I think he's disease-free right now.
So the debate that changing the genome is scary, we see that with people restricting gluten. We see that with people going on Atkins or all of these different diets are asking a molecular biophysicist here. That is changing the genome, correct?
Oh, for sure.
Or the epigenome. So you choosing not to eat fast food and to eat kale shakes or exercise or do that, you are already controlling your genome. But in the future, we're just going to have a more precise tool in which we can change that.
And we will be actually understand what exactly we're doing.
Wow.
Because, for example, people are taking all those supplements at the moment, right?
Sure.
And we don't know what those supplements are doing. when we have this kind of diagnostic, we will have the tool to distinguish who's going to really benefit from aspirin and who's going to have severe troubles, I don't know, with the stomach or whatever. So we will be able to see who's going to need saline supplements and who cannot take that drug because it's going to be detrimental for this person's health.
Well, that's something we've been told for years and years, is that prevention, knowing, the more you can know going into this, the better off your chances will be, especially with things like cancer and stuff. The quicker you catch them. If you can look at your genome and see that you might get cancer of this type at this time in your life, you can be ready for it. And that in it of itself is...
How far off do you think that understanding or that knowledge that you're saying that would allow us more precision of editing our epigenome, how far off is that precision? Are things like Watson coming online? It's at medical school right now, and it's able to digest and extrapolate a diagnosis with 2 million books a second.
We're looking at the history of everything medical.
Exactly. And so, but we still need people like Maria that are doing the research, that are actually in this, that are having the discussions and the conversations. Watson can't make the associations.
Right.
It can only, give you what is in it.
Learn how to do that. I mean, artificial intelligence, the development of this technology, that's a major player. I mean, it's one of the most important factors in actually the history of humanity. And
the sequencing, sure.
I think the coming couple of decades, maybe 3 decades, I'm not sure, they will be the crucial ones, because either we're going to create the friendly artificial intelligence that is going to help us to solve the problem of aging, to cure us from all the diseases, or there's the negative scenario, we could be destroyed by that intelligence. So it's actually our job to be aware of those risks and pursue the path that would lead to implementation of the positive scenario.
Sure.
So I think Watson is a great step towards the positive direction, because it's amazing. This is I think in the not really distant future, our doctor would be on the internet.
It'll be on your cell phone.
Algorithms like Watson will help us significantly to prevent and cure our diseases.
So with Watson on our cell phone in the next few years, or a later adaptation of Watson, that's going to be on our cell phones. But also, is it Intel or IBM? I'm not sure, but they're developing a chip that will allow you to sequence your DNA on a cell phone or a smart device, a palm-held device. And I know that that's in the works right now. So we can see that in the foreseeable next few years, that everybody will be able to take their genome and extrapolate that and have something like Watson able to go through and read your genome and give you a diagnosis therein. And so with that, where do you actually see the conversation taking place? Like we had said earlier, right now it's not in the sphere, because there's not a line in which people can get behind to actually change their life indefinitely. And so, but I think with us on this side of this exponential growth, now that the genome has become an information technology, it jumps on Moore's law. And since you've been, this is a good opportunity to ask you, from when you started researching the genome and all of this type of stuff, how much knowledge have we been able to gain? And would that line up with Kurzweil's exponential curves to confirm that it is actually an information technology at this point?
Well, this is a very good question. I can definitely say that the price of genome sequencing, thanks to the development of sequencing technologies, has fallen down tremendously. It costs a little bit more than $3 billion to sequence the whole human genome in 2003.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then in 10 years, the price came down to what, 5,000? We're looking at 1,000, well, according to the announcements, but I think in a couple of years, we will definitely have companies who would sequence your whole genome and provide the analysis, maybe even for just $1,000, and the price will go down and down and down and down very fast, and this kind of technology will be affordable all around the world, and this is going to make this is going to yield a lot of new knowledge, a lot of really good research that would hopefully lead to creation of life extension technologies.
I think we should talk a little bit about what you mean by life extension, because a lot of people think this immortality and whatnot, but it's extending life healthy, as in it's just your healthiest self with not all the baggage.
Actually, there is a huge debate around this. To me, life extension and extending health span is the same thing.
Yeah,
it's like you cannot extend.
You're not going to extend old age.
The state when a person has all those different kinds of diseases, he's just going to die at some point of time. You cannot really extend this, the part when a person is suffering and is in pain for a long time. This is just not how biology works. Or almost all the experiments that were done in mold animals that yielded life extension in the end. In all those experiments, the animals were the healthy period of life was extended in the first place.
Wow. So
you shouldn't, people shouldn't be afraid of the word life extension. It's actually good to extend lifespan.
Well, I think it's moral as well. I think that should be the very first thing as humans we should talk about. That should be like tomorrow on the global conversation scale. Absolutely. That, hey, there's real scientists.
But you got to remember, there's a giant section of the population that is looking forward to death because they're going to heaven.
But they can have that option. And that's fine. That's already in the genetic code for their game of life to play out, to have
very
them
vocal
die.
About it, though.
Those people to use those advances. But actually, I have never seen or heard of a religious person who would not go to a hospital when their appendix is about to burst.
Exactly.
This is not happening.
Sure.
People take antibiotics.
Yeah.
Well, the faith healers, they don't go to hospitals, but than them.
But that's when Darwin takes over.
Well,
now that we have control over the genome, we have decommissioned Darwin, so to speak. We've decommissioned a natural state of evolution.
We've slowed it down.
Well, we're slowing it down, but we're actually...
No. We moved to a different level. The current biological evolution, sure, it's happening. However, the major factor is human intelligence, and the evolution moved to the intellectual level. Yeah. We are the creators.
Noosphere.
We are our own natural selection. The pace of evolution is increased now significantly. I don't know, millions of times. We can, examples? Sure. For example, if a person goes to war and comes back without a limb, we can get him prosthetics. We can connect them to the nervous system, and those prosthetics would be more exact, they would be stronger even than the original limb.
Well, let's look at what's actually happening right now to make it more local. The fact that we don't even send people to war anymore. We just send unmanned alien crafts or drones.
Drone attack.
And so we're not even sending the human body. We're sending simulations out there. And I think that's why the conversations, and that's what we hope through the Techno Optimism, is to have conversations that limit or firewall that type of negativity that can spill out into the world around us. Because I think that war and those type of things reside on more primitive parts of the circuitry in the brain, and they're more there to protect your tribe and to protect the biology. But since that we've decommissioned evolution, so to speak, by taking control of the genome and taking control of the exponential growth of technology, that we've surpassed that. Like you're saying, that we exist on the noosphere. So I think that that's where the conversations need to happen. And in that space of global conversation, you can't have the primitive parts of those conversations. So those quick, dismissive, immortality, all those dismissive type of pessimistic arguments. Yeah, the defaults. Retort.
And by the way, the perception, like the desire to die, it's or the way we think about death, I think it is actually wired in our genetic code as well. Why? Because we don't want to die tomorrow, right? If you ask anybody, do you want to die today or tomorrow? People would go like, "Are you crazy?"
Sure.
No, of course not. However, if you ask a person, "Would you like to die in 30 years?" people would be more or less okay with that.
But I want the choice.
If you revisit those same,
is that it wasn't. The natural selection was pressuring on the first part of life when we are around puberty, at the time when we have children, right?
Yeah.
And that's why the latter period of life, it didn't really matter in the evolution. However, if a person is sane and responds to logic, if you ask them, do you want to die tomorrow? And you get the answer no. And since everybody says that they don't want to die tomorrow, I mean, sane people, really, without any psychological diseases or, I don't know, unstable mental states. Using the principle of mathematical induction, one can infer that a person wouldn't want to die every other tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
And eventually, a person should be okay with the whole being immortal thing, because really, if you have stuff to do, if you have, I don't know, a play where your kids are, taking part, or if you have a swimming competition, or like your wedding is tomorrow, I don't know, all those kinds of things that make people want to live. Family, children, creativity, I don't know, sex, money, love, whatever.
Well, we currently
values in life that can happen in the future, and actually, the chances that a person could expand their own capabilities and possibilities, these chances are greater the longer a person lives.
Yeah, we currently have that in front of us, as in I make choices every day that prolong my life for tomorrow. I have to eat a certain diet in order to be healthy tomorrow. Right. I make those choices every day.
People are actually they're being hypocrites a little bit. They don't really realize this, right? Because people do choose those healthy
well, where have they had the opportunity to hear a conversation from an actual scientist that has affiliates and has all of these advisors that actually study, and to be able to give them the ultimate cure to, this mortal state that we actually have in front of us? I don't think that it's ever coming even into their cognition that it might actually be plausible to extend life indefinitely through choices that you make today. And then it just becomes, oh, well, when do you, I would love to sit there with my loved one and be like, this has been a really good run. I really want to know what's actually on the other side of the veil, so to speak. But I don't want biology telling me. I don't want that looming over me, because I understand, what Ernest Becker wrote. all about the existential malaise that we all face with our mortality, and we actually have to like live a lie, so to speak, or like you're saying, it puts us into a hypocritical state when we want life, but at the same time we don't project that indefinitely because it hasn't been an option, and there hasn't been conversations where people can tune in and hear that this is actually happening in the laboratory. They're able to extend life of mice through manipulating viruses and understanding of the genome. All of these things are actually happening right now. But the conversation is, like you said, sports and Snooki and all of these other, people with agenda control the media. That's pretty
all
blatant.
Politics, though. You can't do nothing about politics.
Well, actually, that's not true. You can do, and it's our job to make those conversations sound. And I think the thing that you're doing is great. And you're right. There is a huge problem with communication channels. Like, how do we talk to the public? This is why we are using every possibility to do an interview, to be on the TV and share those breakthroughs that have been done in labs all around the world with the general audience. However, by the way, I can see that the trend is positive. We get more invitations over time. We have more publications on the topic of life extension, and there was this breakthrough, and it may potentially lead to life extension. And even the leaders of our country, well, I'm talking about Russia at the moment. Putin said that extending lifespan to 75 years. It's the average is 70 at the moment, and we have to do really huge problems with life expectancy. That's one of the major goals of the country. However, the path to public knowledge, of the aging and life extension topics, that's hazy. That we don't know how to do that, unfortunately, and any help, advice, and is more than welcome, because organizations like our foundation, we're struggling every day to make this topic sound, but we have limited resources, and we're not like, our organization is just like 5 people. So we need more people to talk.
But look what Craig. I would say
friends, at least.
I would say small, but as we can see, the power of nation states now reside in your hands. I mean, we saw what was projected with Craig Venter as he took over the Genomic project. What they said was going to take this long, he jumped on that exponential curve, and he was able to bring it into viable in his own lab type of scenarios. And I think that that's where change happens, is actually with small foundations like yours that try this. And I hope with platforms like the Techno Optimist that we can actually give a voice and change the conversation, just to give a little bit more of a perspective that this is an opportunity for all of us to have this life extension, but just to do what we do every day by making choices to extend our life by the diet and exercise. There's just added to the knowledge that people like you are able to do through your research and through your foundations. With that research, we can have a better map day to day on how to extend our lives, but extend our lives healthy, like to be our best selves, amplified through your technologies and through your discoveries that you're making.
Well, and also you should think about too that you don't want a foundation like like Maria's. Like, you guys should be focusing on doing your research. You don't need to be out trying to figure out how to talk to the public. Like, that's what
platforms. This is a very important part of what we do. We are raising money for researchers. We're organizing a conference. Well, by the way, yes, the Third Genetics Aging and Longevity Conference is going to be in April of 2014 in Sochi, the Olympic Games city in Russia. And this is one of our, that's a very important goal, to raise awareness, because if we form the social mandate, if the public wants to live longer, then the governments, the decision makers will follow the public.
Right.
And this is what they do. And then, national research programs are formed. It happened with the Apollo project, for example. Also, it would be very good to have an genome, like Human Genome Project, but focused on deciphering the mechanisms of aging. Aging project.
It's great we have the book, right? But we don't understand how to read it.
Right. So this could happen when we have a critical mass of people who want to live forever.
The awareness.
This is one possibility. The other possibility is the decision makers. Take a look at, for example, Sergey Brin, Mark Zuckerberg, all those
techno philanthropists.
Yeah, right. These people, I think they're on the verge. There's a little maybe push that is needed to so that they would pay the attention to the problem of life extension.
I love that you called out Bill Gates, so to speak, in his Reddit comment about, on his bucket list, he doesn't want to die. And I love that you actually gave a list of people that he could talk to and
about
maybe donate to. There is actually people that are studying this.
We are working on this.
Yeah.
That's true. If only he'd read it.
Well, I think that if we here, and other platforms in which you can talk to the Zuckerbergs and all of these
when
others.
we interview Bill Gates, we'll send him your message.
Yes.
Please do, because, your life depends on that.
Yeah,
right?
I love it. Currently, though, is there a place in which the audience can donate to your research, to this foundation, or to scientists, or how can they get a hold of not just you, but the foundation? And if they're interested more, we'll have all the links and whatnot, but plug yourself, plug the foundation, please.
The website has the requisites of where people could donate to the foundation directly, and that's one possibility, but we don't necessarily raise the money for the foundation. There are other options. People could donate directly to researchers. For example, to Buck Institute, which is in California, and this is one of the greatest places to, donate money for focused aging research done by terrific scientists. And there are actually many labs that are scattered all over the U.S. and the rest of the world. Well, just the majority is in the U.S. There are different options, but yes, the foundation can direct those funds.
Okay, perfect. We'll have links on the show notes to this episode, and also we're going to feature Maria and her foundation on Simulant.com, and we'll have a whole bunch of different information on there, and all the links and a lot of her great quotes, like she just went over there.
Be terrific. Thank you.
Beautiful. I really, truly appreciate this. We're getting to the hour mark here, but it's been a true pleasure, and it's just blowing my mind to actually think that this is here now. I have my phone sitting here that needs a Watson, and it needs one of those Intel DNA sequencer chips, and then with the knowledge that your foundation is doing and these researchers are able to get by reading the genome, well, then we're just set, right?
Well, not yet.
Come on, I need to be optimistic
we'll
here.
get there eventually. I hope so. I hope this is going to happen within our lifetime.
Well, I hope so too.
That would be very cool. Well, thank you for taking the time, Maria. We definitely appreciate it.
Thank you so much
All
for
right. Have a good night.
making me a part of it. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you soon, Maria. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Well,
Good stuff.
Wow.
Maria Konovalenko, molecular biophysicist, vice president of the Life Extension Foundation. And you can find that site at scienceagainstaging.com. So, like you said, we'll throw links to all that stuff in the show notes and on the Simulate site, simulate.com.
Well, how you doing with all that, man?
That is mind blown. I kept finding these links. I would just Google random stuff that she was talking about, and then I kept going down all this rabbit hole. I don't know, man.
It's
this
amazing.
Stuff's really cool.
Yeah,
and I do feel like it's kind of an uphill battle because you have on one side you have legit scientists like Maria doing legit research using the scientific method and stuff, and then on the other side, and usually more in the public, you see these homeopaths and these people are saying we can make you live forever, we can cure your cancer, but it's all pseudoscience. And I feel like that's in the public's mind. So when you tell them about things like this, they're just like, oh, it's pseudoscience. But this is the real, legit
the
life
public,
extension
you
science.
can see what they want to digest. They want to digest that optimism and hope
quick
and all
answer,
that.
Though,
and I
also.
tried to get Maria to be, but she's so realistic about this because it is a real
realistically,
potential.
it is a while off. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, and that work costs so much money.
But
and
it's probabilistically in our future to actually achieve, and that is just a beautiful thing. But they don't translate that with the same type of passion that the pseudoscience type of homeopaths use to sell the product. They're not salesmen, they're scientists. And so I'm not trying to be a salesman here. I'm just trying to show my wonder, awe, and excitement and optimism towards actually these, try to be a conduit for people like Maria to put the conversation on a global scale and not just, in the science and trying to get the funding and trying to get, I just can't imagine being in that world in which everybody is coming at that pessimism and they can't project a future, past that negativity and such. It's just, I felt this was such a cool and great opportunity to talk to one of the people that are actually in this and and they don't. Future.
I feel like that doesn't happen enough. You only really see in the mainstream, I don't know, the real big. Like the Mars rover, that was in the mainstream, that kind of stuff. You don't really see stuff like this.
Here's how I think of it. I love that she talked about the religious people, they don't, go on their, she didn't say it just like this, but to paraphrase, they don't go on their knees to fix their appendix rupturing. They go into the surgery room in which they do that. And so here was an opportunity for us to... I love this old quote that you don't go to a poor man to ask how to get rich. Well, I have been super curious now that I've been able to drop so much weight and take control of my life and take control of my cognition, take control of my life really, and then actually project the future. Go, well, I don't really want my biology to dictate how long it will be here. I can see that's in the foreseeable future. Well, okay, so let's not ask a poor man how to get rich. How do I ask a scientist how to extend my life, how to prolong it, how to make it indefinite? Well, we had that opportunity with the molecular biophysicist here with she's the vice president of this Life Extension Foundation, and she's able to tell us it's in the probable future, and she gave you the realistic. I'll give you the optimistic view, but that's realistically in our future to have this longevity if the conversation allows that to actually happen. So I think with that, Matt, we're kind of over time here, but I thought that was just absolutely beautiful, and I look forward to more interviews with people like that. Absolutely.
So, all right. Well, check out the site, simulate.com, and like we said earlier, once we have our iTunes links and all that stuff, we'll put them up on the site, and you can find links to all of the stuff we just talked about with Maria and her foundation on simulate.com. Techno Optimist, Kevin.
All right. Thank you, guys. It was a true pleasure.
We'll talk to you guys next week.